It's early spring, and the shy boater slowly emerges from his long winter slumber. Now the trick here is not to spook him. No sudden movements or sudden noises. Oh, didn't like that, whatever it was. Slowly the boater emerges, stretches, looks around, and realizes it's safe to leave the confines of his boat. Spring is finally here. Hi, hello, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. So here I am, back on board the Grey Wagtail for some spring cleaning, some boat chores that need to be done. Now, first thing I need to do is get the electrics up and running, so that's a quick trip down to the engine room and a quick flick of the switches like so, and that's everything back up except the water. So I now need to go and open the water main valve on the tank and close all the taps on the sink, and then I can turn on the water pump. Next thing to do is to sort out the water, and then what I want to do is give the boat a Lüften. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about in terms of a Lüften, have a look at one of my earlier videos about how I try to keep my boat humid free, or with reduced levels of humidity in the winter, so that I don't get any mold growing. Basically, Lüften, it's a German thing where you go around and you ventilate a space. So I'm going to go around, open all the windows, open all the doors, and give the place a good airing. Let the warm, moist air out and let any cool, dry air in. So you're bringing in cool, drier air and reducing the humidity on board your boat. So that's the first thing to do. Whip round, open all the doors and windows. So what spring tasks have I got to do? What needs doing on board the Grey Wagtail? Well, there are a number of things. One thing I need to do is fill up with water. I haven't filled up with water since I've had the boat, so I need to look into that. The water point is just there in terms of putting water on board the boat, and the point for getting the water from is just outside the boat. There's a hose up in the gas locker. I also need to give this area a bit of a clean because it's still covered in muddy footprints after I fell into the canal and had to sort of strip off in this area and dry myself down with a towel and put clean, dry clothes on. So this area needs a good wash. I also need to clean and empty the diesel stove. Although it doesn't supposedly generate any ash, there's a small accumulation of ash in the bottom, and there's also carbon collecting on the coils inside, so I need to sort of brush that off, clean it all out, so that it's ready for when I next want to use it. The cabin needs a good clean because there are dust bunnies appearing in the corner, and although it's difficult to see on the shot, all the windows are absolutely filthy, so they need a good clean. And what's not showing up is the place has become the home for a surprising number of spiders. I've got a lot of cobwebs in here. Now, you don't tend to see all these cobwebs unless it's particularly sunny. I was sitting here the other evening and it seemed to be cobweb central. Cobwebs all over the place, so I need to give it a good dust. There's a lot of dust in here. In fact, the stove is almost a health hazard in terms of there's so much dust accumulated on it now that if I fired up the stove, I might ignite the dust. So that needs doing as well. I also need to put away my winter heaters. I don't need these anymore, hopefully not anyway. These are just on board to take a bit of the chill off, so if it does get below or close to zero in here, I can flick those on remotely using the automated system, just to sort of take the chill off and help the boat stay a little bit warm. I can also put away my electric dehumidifier. I think that's done a sterling job over the winter months. It's kept the boat nice and dry in here. And I need to do a mold inspection, have a good look around for mold. Haven't seen any, sort of just glancing around, but I'll have a good look in cupboards and stuff to make sure it's all mold free. I also need to check out things like the carbon monoxide and smoke detectors, just to make sure they're okay, because I know for a fact that the clock stopped working, the battery's gone in that, so that might need replacing. Well, it does need replacing in the clock. And I also need to check up on all my fire extinguishers just to make sure they're okay. And I've got 2 in the lounge area here, and I think I've got 2 down towards the back of the boat. So I just want to check those out, make sure they're okay. And I just need to give the boat a good clean. Just give it a good clean through. Get rid of all the dust, get rid of all the muck, and get it ready for cruising later on in the spring. Okay, time to test the smoke detector. Yep, that's working, no problems there. Quick check of the carbon monoxide detector. Yep, that's working, that's good. And down here on the floor I've got the gas detector. It's showing 0 gas, which is good. Don't want any gas in here. Yep, and that checks out, it's all working, so that's good. Right, so that's all the alarms tested. They all seem to be working fine, so no problems there. Next thing to do is have a look at the fire extinguishers. Okay, so here's one of the fire extinguishers down by the diesel stove. I've got 3 others on board, 1 in the kitchen and 1 down in the engine room. And all I need to do is have a look at them, make sure that they're not corroded or damaged in any way, and make sure that this little dial here is still in the green. So what I need to check is that the dial is still in the green, which is a little bit difficult to see here. It doesn't appear to be very green, but it is in the green there, so that's all good and okay. And the rest of the body of the fire extinguisher looks okay. Nothing obviously wrong with it. I'll just give it a quick dust and put it back on the wall. And I will repeat the check on all the other fire extinguishers. Okay, so that's the fire extinguishers checked, the fire blanket checked, they're all okay. I've checked the smoke detectors, I've checked the carbon monoxide detectors, and I've checked the gas alarm. So they're all sorted out, and I've even got around to replacing the battery in the clock. Something else I need to do besides water, I've just remembered, is I need a new gas cylinder. I've got 2 gas cylinders in the gas locker, one of them is empty and I need to replace that. So I've been and got a new gas cylinder. I haven't videoed me taking it out of the locker or putting it in because the thing's surprisingly heavy. It weighed about 17 kilos empty, and it weighs 35 kilos, 36 kilos I think. The new one that I've got, so quite heavy to get in there and surprisingly expensive. So I've now got it in here, and all I need to do is make sure that the thing is chained up so that it can't go anywhere. Okay, that's it's chained up, and whilst I'm in here I may as well get the hose out to refill with water. So I will now dip the tank. I've got this handy stick here with a mark on it. Let's see how much I've got in there. So I've just dipped the tank, and it does need a bit of water. Not a huge amount. Now this tank supposedly holds 1,200 litres, which I find rather alarming. That's a lot of water, that's 1,200 kilograms. And if this little marker at the top, which you can't quite see, so if this little marker here is the top, I can roughly calculate how much water this tank can hold. So I might do a bit of maths on that and see what we come out with. Okay, so a quick bit of maths, you know me and I like my maths. Got my measure here. So this is my stick. It was up to about there. Let's just see how long that stick is. That will give me the maximum depth of water. So that is 50, let's say 58 centimeters on there. I can then measure across the well deck here. I know roughly where the tank's sitting, and do a bit of maths and see what that comes out to. I can't believe it's 1,200 litres. That's a huge amount. In fact, it was even queer on the boat survey that it seemed very, very big tank on this particular boat. So let's do the maths. Okay, let's take some measurements here. Now, assuming that the tank goes from the bulkhead of where the gas locker is, it comes to about here. So let's call that 110 centimeters. Now the maximum it could be across, if I look at this, if I measure it across here, okay, maximum across is 2 meters there, and then up here at the gas locker. Let's call that 175. So that gives us our dimensions. We've got 2 meters, 175, and whatever I said for the stick. So let's work this one out. Okay, so I've done the maths on the water tank, and while this is not exact because I haven't taken into account its sort of actual shape, if I take the sort of maximum measurements, which is 200 centimeters by 57 deep by 110 across the top, that gives me 1,254,000, which means that's 1,254 litres. If I take the minimum measurements, in other words, I replace the 200 with 175, so that's the distance across the sort of top of where the actual gas locker is, that gives me a value, when I do the maths there, of roughly 1 million cubic centimetres. 1 cubic centimetre is 1 mil, so it's somewhere between 1 million and 1.2 million, so it's somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 litres. So actually the technical specifications in the book are correct, and the guy who did the inspection on the boat was wrong to sort of query the volume that was actually being used. So there you go. Anyway, maths done. Now that's interesting. I was just sitting inside having lunch, keeping an eye on the water tank because I thought suddenly water may start spurting out at the top as it filled up, and I heard running water, and I thought, well, that's a bit odd, what's going on? And I came outside to find water coming out the side of the boat. I've just been to check in the manual, and in fact there is a sort of overflow pipe from my water tank through the boat and to the outside. Didn't know it had that. Is that common on narrowboats? Anyway, at least it does tell me I've got to go and turn the water off now. Okay, so clearing out the diesel stove. And what I'm going to do is use these two brushes. One of them is a sort of softish copper brush and the other one is a nylon brush, to brush the inside of the coils that you can just about see there, to get all the loose carbon off. And then I will be using a vacuum cleaner to sort of take out the carbon and throw it away. I'll also be trying to clear out the ignition pan at the bottom because that seems to have accumulated a small layer of ash in there. So here goes. Okay, there's not as much carbon in here as I was expecting. It's sort of shifting quite easily. Oh yeah, that's coming out. That's coming out okay. Creating a bit of dust, but no, not too bad at all. Most of it seems to shift with this rather soft brush. And you can sort of have a look down there. As you can see, those coils have cleaned up okay. There's quite a bit of carbon down there. I need to take out the burner cage at the bottom and give that a bit of a scrub, and then vacuum out the material that's in the burner pod at the bottom. I don't know if I can take out these sort of rings here that you can see just above the burner pot. If anybody knows how to get those out, let me know. I did look online and I couldn't see anything to say how you can get those out to give those a clean, but anyway, it's not looking too bad in there. Okay, so this is possibly not what this Hoover was designed for, but it's rather handy in that I've got a sort of super telescopic line on it, which is good. Okay, I definitely need to get that burner pot out again. Okay, so that's the burner pot. I did clean that earlier. Now I just need to get down there and get the last of the dust. Well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now I need to just put back not the burner pot, but actually it's the burner cage. This is the burner cage, not the burner pot, as I said earlier. So just make sure that's back in there sitting right. Oh, flashy light. Okay, I need to adjust that. Okay, that's back, good. And as you can see, it's looking a lot cleaner in there, all nicely cleaned out, which is good news indeed. And now put the lid back on. Helps if you put it on the right way. There we go, all done. Just need to give the outside of it a bit of a polish now. The other thing I need to do is clean out the Boatman stove, because when I lit it the other week there was still quite a bit of ash in it from the previous owner and it didn't look like it had been cleaned for a while, so I'm going to have a good look at that, get all the ash out and give it a good clean. So I didn't video myself clearing out the Boatman stove. I had the top plates off that you can see here. I took this ring out, it was all very, very mucky, and it is still quite mucky in there. And one of the most useful things was this device, which I found sort of stuck down the back of the stove. And what it is you sort of get it in here and it helps you sort of take out all the ash and dust that's accumulated on this side of the stove, so you can pull it over and into your ash pan. Now, one of the odd things that happened whilst I was clearing this out was I found a strange piece of metal, and if anybody knows what this piece of metal is and what it does, I'd be grateful if you could tell me. It looks quite sort of battered and old. I don't know, I reckon it was something like that originally. I don't know where it should be. I mean, that's how it seems to fit together to me anyway, but I can't think where it would go, possibly on the other side of this. I don't know, but if anybody's got any ideas, please let me know in the comments what this could be. Is it important and should I replace it? I found it sort of lying inside just here, amongst all the sort of ash and debris that had built up over that area over the years. But anyway, it's all cleaned out now and that's it. As I say, didn't video it because it was quite boring and it was very, very mucky indeed. Another job that I need to do is sort out this side table. I mean, it works quite well. It comes up and then there is a leg that folds down. However, there is a problem with this leg. So here is the leg that comes down and there's a screw here to tighten to lock it into place. The problem is the screw doesn't hold. So as soon as you lean on the table when you're having a meal or doing anything in the evening, the table starts to go down and collapse. So I have to find a way of fixing this problem. So my solution is this leg, which I picked up on Amazon, and it's got one of these sort of button locking type mechanisms. So there should be no danger of it collapsing once I lean on the table. Of course, the problem is I've got to fit it. Well, I think I'm going to call that a success. It works. I can put the up and open it out, release the leg, drop it down. Perfect, excellent. I like that. Big improvement, nice sturdy table now. Okay, so that's it for this chores video. No doubt there'll be more things that I need to do on board. One thing that I do know I need to do is look at the 230-240 volt generator system, because when I made the video the other week about the electrics on board the Grey Wagtail, I did notice that it wasn't working correctly. It didn't seem to be putting out the voltage and the silver box in the bedroom didn't seem to be firing up. And this could prove to be a really expensive problem. Anyway, look out for that video. I've also got to complete the spring cleaning of the outside of my boat. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you do know what that piece of mysterious metal was that I found in the ash of the Boatman stove, please let me know in the comments below. On the screen now is a QR code. This is a link through to a free newsletter about the Grey Wagtail. Well, it's actually more of a blog than a newsletter. So please consider subscribing to that newsletter. And thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and a like. And if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's all free. Again, thanks for watching. Bye for now.